My gosh, I'm not in the stream yet. Oh, hi everybody. Okay, I'm back in the stream. This is really cool. And then let's go ahead and get a little streaming thing at the bottom that says that you can go to nightmusic.com. And welcome to the Underground Gospel Show. This is episode 67. And we've had some things out in Tennessee that I'm going to talk about. We had a flood in Waverly. They had I know this is going to sound crazy. 17 inches of rain. That's almost, if you think about how deep a bathtub is, imagine a bathtub of water falling over the entire county in about 9 hours. And yeah, so nothing could hold it. I mean, there was just no, every creek, every river, everything. A friend of mine was camping while they were out there, and they said that uh, she had woken up because there was water coming in the tent, and so they went and they got their stuff, and they went and they started packing their car. By the time they got back to the tent, it was up to their knees. They said we had no time whatsoever. Within minutes, it was up to their waist. Their car started flooding. They got their car. They lost their trailer. They had two. This girl had two dogs, and she was with her boyfriend, and his boyfriend had a dog. They got the dogs in the cars, and they started driving. They're like, "We're not going to make it out of here." I mean, the water is coming over the hood of the car, and we're talking less than 10 minutes. I mean, they threw everything in. The trailer washed away. They still haven't found the trailer. It's been over a week. They completely, and this was, she had had a car accident the weekend before and had got a brand new car. The brand new car totaled by the time they got it out. um, and as they were leaving, they saw this couple on the roof of their home. So there was like four people trying to get these people, trying to hoist these people off. So her and her boyfriend stopped and they hoisted these people off the roof. By the time they got to some sort of high land, um, all the lights on her dashboard was on. I mean, the car, it once again is a complete it's a complete loss. And so, but she's fine. The puppies are fine. The boyfriend's fine. They had 22 fatalities. And I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a few stories about some floods that I was in just a little while. So I hope if you guys are interested in what's going on, or if you have some compassion for people that have had some floods or been in some flooding, I'm going to be telling you those stories in just a little bit. And some of them I think are kind of, interesting, and it's God's perspective about um, floods, because I'll say this time and time again. People call it an act of God. It's not an act of God. The act of God is what happens during the flood and after the flood, presumably after the flood. And I'll get a lot of into that into part two. I'm going to tell some stories about part one. Let me just make sure that I've done everything as far as I haven't done anything as far as my welcoming, actually. So once again, like everybody says, smash that subscribe button if it's your first time here, so you don't miss any of the episodes that we have coming up. If you're interested in sponsoring us, you can go to my night-music.com page, and there's information on PayPal. If you're watching this in the future, this is right now, the end of August in 2021. I will have probably by the 1st of October a Discord channel up. And the Discord channel is where we're going to be praying specifically for people's needs. We're going to be answering specific questions, especially questions in the music industry. I was just asked to be on a podcast, which I'm going to go on, and I'm going to talk about, how to make money in the music business today. The music industry has completely changed. I was out on tour. I think a lot of you guys know I had been off during 2018, 2019 because I don't tour during the winter, and I got on a thing called Winter Jam with David Crowder, and we did a show up in Louisville, and I had just joined. It was our first day on the tour, and they canceled the show. We didn't even have rehearsal for the first band. We had just set up for the first band. We're going to take a break and then start rehearsals, and yeah, the promoter came in and said, "Mayor canceled the show because of the pandemic." And at the time, we are like, "What pandemic?" And that was it for that show. Then we rolled over to another tour that was, getting ready for going to rehearsal. They were in Nashville in the big rehearsal rooms, and so we rolled in on that. And we loaded them in on a Thursday, did a video shoot on a Friday, and on Saturday we came into work and they're like, pack them up, 6 trucks, and we're done. And they're still not out. Okay, and this is like I said, August 2021. They're not planning to go out again this tour that I know of until fall of 2022, because you just can't throw these things together. The week before the flood, I had done the rehearsals for the Garth Brooks show. I think he did 5 days and canceled the rest of the tour because we're just, I mean, we're spiking again with COVID. Like I've said before, typical pandemics take about 6 years to run their course, and so we're year and a half into it. I'm not expecting a lot, but because I've done so well with things like this, that they've asked me onto a podcast. So I'm going to go on a podcast and I'm going to talk about the music industry and my music business. We might have that on our Discord channel. And let's see, is there anything else? If you need to find out concert dates, I mean, this is live streamed every Friday and Saturday night at 8 o'clock on Twitch, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. So you're watching it on one of those. Thank you, all the people who are watching it on Twitch. I love seeing my numbers the next morning when I wake up and I'm like, I can't believe so many people watch this. And then, Facebook is what Facebook is. And then YouTube, I'm going to be on YouTube forever. You're going to be able to watch these past episodes and you're going to be able to binge me if you want to. And that's going to go on for, well, probably for a long time. So, yeah, we're really excited about this. But anyway, so that's all I was going to talk about the housekeeping. And then I was going to tell you about my friend. Well, I was on tour with an artist. I won't say her name, but she had a bass player in her band who was getting married in March of 2010. And if you guys remember, March of 2010 is when we had the big flood in Nashville. And I'm going to tell a few stories for today and tomorrow about that flood because there's a few things that happened. And so on Saturday, um, we were at, I wonder if I can say the, I'm not going to say the name of the church, but they were getting married at this church, and behind the church was an electrical substation. One of those big. It's probably half an acre. Of all just metal stuff that makes electricity, or that generates, and I don't know what. So I don't know what a substation does. It doesn't make electricity, but somehow it distributes it as part of the grid. And so we were setting up for the wedding and getting everything dialed in. And lightning hit the substation. Now, it had been raining that morning. They weren't canceling, they weren't even predicting floods or anything like that at all, but it had rained for hours. And so, but lightning, we were in a lightning storm, and lightning hit the substation, and it was out. There was no, there was nothing. We were just completely dead. And they were like, what are we going to do? We can't, we can't. I mean, cell phone was out, everything was out. It was just like, what are we going to do? So what we decided to do was, let's go ahead with the wedding. So what they did, I'm just going to pull this up real quick. What they did was, oh, I didn't even look at my picture. How's everything look here? Oh, that's okay. Hey, everybody. So lift up my guitar so you can see that. So anyway, so what they did was they decided to go ahead with the wedding, and they pulled candles from everywhere. Everybody got as many candles as they could find, and we put candles all over the sanctuary. Okay. Well, we were getting the candles and everything. I was walking down, and this is kind of a secret, so I'm just going to keep this on the DL. We were walking down this pathway, and the security light was on. They had about 4 or 5 security lights throughout the church. And when power's off, the security lights come on. So this, security panel came on. And the facilities guys for the church was there, and we were kind of walking, and I looked at it, I said, how much power do you think the battery in that security thing has? He goes, I don't know. He goes, I have literally no idea. I mean, it's 4 fluorescents, so it can't be more than 180 watts. And I'm like, well, watts times volts. So, we're dealing with 120 volts. And I said, I wonder how many amps it actually can pull. And so he's like, I don't know. That's a really good question. So I said, well, let's find out. So we got a ladder and we climbed up there. And it was in the back of a building. It wasn't a place where anybody went a whole lot. And so we got up there with a flashlight. I had my van. If you guys know anything about me, I'm very, very prepared for most well, pretty much everything that could ever possibly happen. So I probably had three or four flashlights on me. So anyway, so and I'm a sound guy, so I always carry flashlights. Anyway, so we shined a flashlight up there and found the battery pack and pulled it down, looked at it. I'm like, huh, so it throws 5 watts for an average, and it told the time. And I don't remember what it is offhand, but I remember thinking it's 5 watt or 5 amps. And I'm like, I have a small little powered um, amplifier. In fact, that's I'm using one like it right now as far as my mixing. It's called a Rolling Cube. This wasn't a Rolling Cube, but it was another battery powered amp. And I'm like, I do have a battery powered amp that throws out about 5 watts. And I said, and all I would need power for is my wireless. And I checked the wireless, and it's like point 0.3 amps. I mean, it's not, and and it's wireless, so it runs on batteries. I mean, it's just the receiver that actually that has to be plugged into a wall wart. And so I'm like, I wonder if I could just plug this thing in, and if we could fabricate something. So we did, and we fabricated, and we used the PA, and they had another one at church, which was a like a passive speaker that I could run into mine. And so now we have like, it's not stereo because it's two mono signals. Won't get into the whole audio thing, but you don't really need stereo because you hear in stereo, you have two ears. So if you have two mono signals coming from either side and they're somewhat balanced, your brain will figure all that out. So we set up a couple of speakers, and I set up my little wireless amp and mic, and they had their wedding, and it was really fun, and it was really cool. Then afterwards, we went out, and there was a couple of performers, and I was able to hook everything up again, and for about an hour and a half until the battery pack did wear out. But we had microphones, and it was kind of fun. We had really good time at the reception. Everybody got to play songs. They got to have first dances. I mean, all the things you'd have to do, but there was no power. There's nothing at all. So, needless to say, the next morning I was going to go to work, and I'll tell you that story in just a little bit. And but I was going to go to work, and I was working at Opryland Hotel the next day, and I get this phone call like at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I pick up the phone, and I'm like, "Hello," and he's like, "Hey, Art, this is," I won't say the name. He goes, "But," um, I said, "Hey, what's going on? Aren't you on your honeymoon?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm on my honeymoon. We're over here in what was in Puerto Rico? It's in the Caribbean. It was, I think, San Martin or St. Lucius, or he was on one of the islands in the Caribbean with his brand new wife. And remember, this is a Christian couple. Okay, so they waited. This is their honeymoon night. Now, I don't know if you know the difference between a Christian wedding and a non Christian wedding. And you ask them about the honeymoon, and that's when you find out what they are. I mean, seriously. And I'm not saying that, you can't be a Christian wedding and not do this, but it's kind of been this enjoyment for me because if you have a non Christian honeymoon or a non what do you call it? Oh my gosh, it's not celibate. It's oh my god, what is it when you wait? I can't remember the word. I know there's a word for it. But anyway, so if you have a non-waiting honeymoon, just put it that way, and then you ask people, what'd you do? There's like, oh man, we went snorkeling, and we went jet skiing, we went parasailing, we had so much fun, we went out dancing every night, we had such a good time. It was the best honeymoon ever. We got the sailboat, we did, and fill in the blank. We went horseback riding on the beach. You just let your mind, wander. When you have a Christian honeymoon where the people waited, it's like, how did your honeymoon go? It's like, it was great. What'd you do? We stayed in the room. You were gone for 5 days. Yes, we were. And for 5 days, we stayed in the room. And you know what they were doing. Anyway, but it was one of those weddings. Okay, it was one of those honeymoons. So I called up, or he called me up, and I said, "Aren't you with your wife right now?" And he goes, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "And I tell you what," he goes, "Art, I can't sleep." And I'm like, "Why not?" He goes, "Because all I can think about," now remember, this is the bass player in the artist band that I was touring with. He goes, "All I could think about is, how did we have a wireless PA system and there was no electricity for 20 square miles?" I'm like, "Are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, I can't figure. We didn't. There was no lights. There was no electricity. How did you get a wireless PA working? He goes, I can't figure it out. I said, I'll tell it to you later. Now, if he ever watches this video, he'll figure out how I did it because I used the security battery from one of the security lights in the back of the facility. But he has no idea to this day. I don't think I told him. I just laughed. I said, I'll tell you when you get back off your honeymoon. Go take care of stuff. He goes, no. He goes, it's bothering me. I said, let's just put it this way. You hired the right engineer. At that time in my life, I was working as an engineer, and some of you guys know that I am the sound man. A lot of people just call me the sound guy. I'm the sound man. And I've been at so many events where the sound goes south and like, hey, Art, can you help us with the sound? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can. And I've been able to. It's just a talent that I have. But anyway, so I'm going to do another little talent that I have, and let's play some music. So since we're doing, since the first story that I told you was stories about a wedding and the beginning of a flood and electricity taking out well, lightning taking out the electricity, I'm going to do a song. Let's see, the first song I do is going to be called, this is a song by Hillsong by my friend Brooke, and this is called What a Beautiful Name It Is. Whoa, I'm all over the place on that one. We're going to try this song again. I think I'm just going to edit all that out. If I have the ability to edit, I'm going to edit all this out. Okay, this is a song called What a Beautiful Name It Is by my friend Brooke with Hillsong United. So. once again, if you need to find any of the music, it, most of the lyrics are up on my website. Once again, that's called "What a Beautiful Name It Is." It was written by Brooke Ligertwood. I knew her as Brooke Fraser for a long time, but now she got married, and so she's now Brooke Ligertwood. I hope that's right. I'm probably murdering her name, Brooke. I'm so sorry. I just call you Brooke. That's all I know you by. And I've only talked to you like, like 4 or 5 times. I mean, it's not like we're close friends. You've never invited me like jet skiing or anything, but still, anyway, we pass each other. We've talked in the hallway at Hillsong a few times. Anyway, um, so that was from Brooke, and I guess I'll do another little song about love. Why not do that? And I didn't even mention that today's verse is brought to you by Genesis 9. I don't do a lot of Old Testament, and I got to tell you, I'm not an Old Testament guy, to tell you the truth. The Old Testament, in my opinion, is stories about the history of the Jewish people and the promises of the Messiah coming. And then there's a couple of there's romantic books, there's poetry, there's books on how to live. There's a lot of stuff in the Old Testament, chock full of stuff. If you guys got to get a chance, I would actually recommend reading a proverb a day for 31 days. There's 31 proverbs, 31 days. If you're in February, skip a 3. If you're in half the year, just skip the last one. Proverbs 31 is all about the Proverbs 31 woman and the great wife that you're going to be looking for and all that. And quite frankly, I've had a couple of wives. I've not been really good in that department. That's why I need God's love. And I'm sure glad God is a God of love because I sure haven't been able to figure that whole love thing out at all. So anyway, and so I'm going to do a song about love. This is a song called More Love, More Power. And I do have to apologize for another thing too. Right before this show, I put new strings on my guitar. And I have yet to name this guitar. In fact, it's a Breedlove talking about love, but I have not named this guitar. I typically have names for my guitar, but I don't have a name for this one yet. I've had it for about 2 years. I think I know what I might want to call it. But so anyway, this is a song, and I put new strings on, and I changed my gauge. So that's why I was having problems in the last song. Is the muscle memory is not the same for 2 years now? I've been playing with a medium set of strings, which I think it's 58 through 12, and now I'm playing extra light, which is like 43. This string's like a 43, which is usually my A string, so now that's actually my E string, and then my high E string is actually I think it's a 10 on this set. And so I'm still using Didario, and I'm still using Brown's wound, but I don't know. I think I might go with higher. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to have to mix a couple of sets of strings because I'm going to try it for a couple of shows and see if I can get the most. So anyway, needless to say, this is a song called More Love. I hope you love it. I hope you love it. But it's you can find the words once again on my website at night-music.com. Thank you so much. I'll shut up now. Yes, more love, more power. And like I said, I'm sorry, guys. The new strings, I probably should have changed them and played for a week before. I shouldn't have tried them out right before a show. You live, you learn. You know, um, yeah, that's my fault. So I apologize. If it's your first time tuning in, you expect this. I'm going to do something goofy every time. So, it's just like if back in the drinking days, I would have a drinking game on the underground gospel show. It's like every time he screws up, let's do a shot. But I'm not recommending that unless you want to do sacraments. If you want to do wine and just do a remembrance of Jesus, oh, I should do one of those shows because then we'll have. Thank you. I appreciate that. So anyway, let's see where we are. Oh, I was. This is the part where I run a commercial, which I still haven't made yet, and it's we have a line of garments on our website, and basically it's Jesus. It's Jesus in a bunch of different languages. I have it in Chinese and Portuguese and Russian, and I have it in English and in French and in Australian and in American. And so, if you want to wear a shirt that says Jesus, that would be cool because I imagine getting up to heaven and Jesus, just opening his robes and having a shirt that says, your name. That would be kind of cool because he's proclaiming it in front of his father, just like you proclaimed it in front of men. I think that's actually something I should put on the board in the future. So anyway, the next thing I was going to talk about was Operaland. Yeah, I was. If you guys remember Operaland Hotel, if you've ever been to Nashville, there we have this hotel called Operaland. It's right next to the Cumberland River. It sits way above the Cumberland River. I mean, like 100 feet above the Cumberland River. It's crazy high, and it has a 10-foot retaining wall. Anyway, when the rains came, this is the next day after Ryan's wedding. I went into work. He had woken me up at 5:30 with his question, and so I went into work. And let me see what the song is that I'm doing at the end of this real quick because I need to figure that out. Yeah, I got that. Oh wait, no, that's not it. It is it. Huh, interesting. So, where was I? Oh yeah, so we had worked, and halfway through the show, or we were loading into a show, and the guys came out and said, "Dude, it's flooding. The parking lot is flooding. If you're parked in the lower part, if you're parked in the Upperland Mall parking lot, go move your cars. I mean, the thing's flooding." I'm like, "Oh, it can't be that bad." So I walked out, and dude, it was that bad. I drove a Firebird at the time, and the water was halfway up the thing in my Firebird. And so I'm like, "Oh, this is crazy." So I opened up the door, and there's nothing I could do. I'm just kind of grabbing stuff and keeping it from rolling out. And I put it into neutral, and I just pushed off the brake, and I pushed and pushed. And the secret of pushing a car, guys, and if you ever need to do anything, is you get kind of behind it and you lean. Don't try to push it. Don't injure your muscles. Don't injure your legs or anything. Just use your body weight, and you might not go very far, but you are going to get momentum. And as you get momentum, you get a little faster and a little faster. Well, I'm pushing uphill with a car full of water in a puddle of water that's, I mean, pretty high. Needless to say, I was able to get my car up to dry land. And I mean, it was pretty much completely dry. I brought it up a handicapped little ramp and parked it up in the green area, put on my brake and deal with it later, and went back in because we were having issues. So basically, what happened was the alarm had gone off for a while, the emergency alarm, and then it cut off. Well, what had happened was the water had flooded over the air conditioning unit. I don't know how much of this I could tell legally, but this is what happened. Water flooded over the air conditioning unit, which then sent carbon monoxide into the building, which set off the carbon monoxide sensor, which was the alarm that we heard. But that's not made to be a long term emergency alarm. It sends out an alarm, it runs for a couple minutes and then stops, and then runs for a couple minutes and then stops. But then the water had shorted out the system, so it just stopped. Needless to say, we knew things were going on and that we had people in the hotel. So, being the sound company, we had to literally run. And I'm not kidding. This is miles and miles and miles of XLR cable. I mean, we used every XLR cable we had and strung it from the central. It's like a kind of like a like the Pentagon. except with spears. I mean, don't, it's not like a big square building, but it has, oh, what do you call it? The hotel rows that go out. But these things are, I mean, it's a four-story hotel. So, I mean, you have four stories that are running down in spikes outside of the central unit. So we made the main area of the central unit and then ran cables down to each one of the areas of the hotel and then put a speaker up there and then put, so we weren't running to the back and forward, but we just put it in the front. And because we're like, we're not, we might not have an emergency PA system, you know, if anything happens to the power, because the power had gone off the day before, but we have our own generators at the hotel. But we had lost power and then they came back on. Needless to say, we ran all this cable, all these PA, all this other stuff, and we're all working. And then they made the announcement, get everybody down into wasn't the Delta. I think we went to the Tennessee ballroom. Yeah, we brought everybody in the Tennessee ballroom. And there was about 300 people, 300 families that we got in, and they had some buses come and they picked up the people in the buses and they said, we're just temporarily taking you over to McGavick High School. And they had set up cots and put up, and so that's where they spent that night. Actually, I think they spent the next 3 days, because once we had got everybody out and everybody evacuated, we, you know, told everybody, okay, go home. All the employees left, and there was three of us left. I don't think security was even there. I think it was me, this guy named Brandon. I won't say his last name. A guy named Todd, and I won't say his last name. And the three of us were there, and the lights boom went out. Well, we turned on our flashlights. You know, it's like we need to check. So we went and we walked the entire length of all the hotel to make sure there was nobody left. Knocked on the rooms, and we know that we had known that it had happened two or three times. We need to do it one more time, so we did it one more time. I came out, and it's now dusk. It's now dark, and well, it was dusk. The sun was going down, and this was probably 4:30, 5 o'clock at night. And so I got in my car. I turned on my car. Every light just, blah, 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 you know, I just like, oh, this isn't good. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I looked over to my right, and there's a retaining wall. And the retaining wall is about 10 feet tall, and it's 100 feet above the river. And there are waves of brown water. I mean, pouring over this wall. And just, I mean, it's horrific to think of what I saw. I mean, just waves of, you've seen it. You've seen the special effects. That's what it was. Just waves of brown water pouring over this wall, because that was the river. That's how high it was. I mean, it's pouring over the wall. And I'm like, oh, this isn't going to try my car again. Woo, 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 woo. I turned it off. I looked up to heaven. I'm like, Jesus, seriously? This is art. I'm in a situation. Did you really plan since the beginning of the universe that I was going to die in the parking lot of the Opryland Hotel? Really? Me? I've been on every continent of the planet. I've survived all this stuff, which is fine. I don't mean to be unhumble or anything like that, but this is how you plan for me to die? Are you kidding me? I'm going to need a miracle here. And I pushed in my clutch, and whoo, car started up again. Now, it was, I turned on my windshield wipers. They're just not happening. Okay. Tried to roll down my window. It got like 2 inches. It stopped. You know, I'm like, okay, this is what I got. So I'm wiping off the front windshield, you know, from the mist. And I'm like, this is, you know, this is what I got. And so I'm looking at the wrong song here. Um, Needless to say, I was a little freaked out. So I drove out, and I couldn't go through the parking lot. I mean, that was just, forget it. It's over my vein. It's over my it's my Mustang, over my Firebird already. Okay. There's another way out that goes around by the employee exit, but it dips down. That's where the air conditioners were, and that's completely underwater. The only thing I could do is go through the gazebo, which then takes me by a place called the Delta Portico, and then I could get out that way. It's the highest ground. Trouble is, the gazebo is made for people, not made for Firebirds. I'm not, I wasn't going to, you know, go on the grass, because I wouldn't be able to make it out of that. I was just going to sink like a, you know, stone. I knew that. And so I had to stay on concrete. And so I'm like, okay, here we go. I put it in first. I'm like, just gonna have to shoot. I just have to shoot it hard enough that I can take out the columns as I go through. But if I shoot it hard enough, I'll probably have enough momentum to make it through the columns, make it through the next columns, and get out. I don't care about the mirrors. I don't care about the handles. Don't care about the car. I just got to get out of here because I'm going to die. So I hit it first, second, dude. I got to tell you, I don't understand it. Still to this day, I don't understand it. I went through the gazebo. In my mind, I see it opening and letting me go through because there was no way my car should have fit through the gazebo. I mean, just no way. It just no way. It's not the gazebo's not wide enough for a car to go through. Somehow I went through without losing my mirrors, without even a scratch on my car, and I made it through both sides of the gazebo. Got out to the portico, and I'm just like, this is crazy. And then I came out. They had already closed off Briley Parkway, and so I came up McGavick Pike, going towards the high school because I had to get home. And so we were, yeah, and of course, you guys have all seen the pictures. Opryland did flood. It flooded a lot, like, I mean, a lot. And the mall flooded, and it was just horrible how much the river came over. And so, but I was one of the last three people in the Opryland Hotel before it flooded. And that's my story of how I escaped that flood. Now, to tell you the truth, it took about a month for all the repairs to be done on my car because it had it had gone through some major water damage. And but you know what, God bless, I mean, there's miracles. And so that's where I'm going to do a song right now. And I think I totally I'm going to try to do this from memory. I usually kind of keep it up there so I can get an idea. I'm going to screw it up, so just we get ready to do the sacraments. um anyway, this is turn your eyes, keep your eyes upon Jesus. And because that's what I did. I'm just like, really, Jesus? You expect me to die in the parking lot of the Opryland Hotel? Um, and of course, he didn't. He had greater plans for it, like he has greater plans for all of us. So, anyway, I hope you enjoy the song. So, when you're in deep, dark despair and there's no way out, I would just ask Jesus, really, is this how you planned? And you know what? It just might be, because I heard a story yesterday about Steve Jobs, something that he said. He said that death might be the greatest invention of life, because knowing the fact, if you look every day into the mirror and say, this could be the last day of my life. Is this what I want to do with it? There's going to come a time when it's the truth that it is the last day of your life. And so that's one thing that we all share, every single one of us, and we don't know when it's coming, and we don't know how it's going to get here. But the one thing that we share is we all have that last day. So anyway, not to end this on a downer, because the good news is when you accept Jesus in your heart and you believe that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. And that's what we have a savior for. You know, I love John 3:16, but you know what I love better? John 3:17. Because John 3:16 is God so loved the world that he sent his son. And John 3:17, not to judge the world, but to redeem it. And so once you accept Jesus as your savior, you are redeemed. And so you don't have to do anything special. You have to believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord. You have to call upon his name. See, believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord, and believe that God has confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord. So you have to say, Jesus, you're my Lord, and believe in your heart that God has raised from the dead, and you're saved. And you know what you're saved from? Yeah, you know what you're saved from. And you know what you're saved to? None of us do. But we're all looking forward to it. Anyway, we hope that you enjoyed the Underground Gospel show. I am going to have to do an edit. If I can get around to it, I hope I can do an edit. And come back tomorrow night for part 2 of the stories of the flood. And stories of the flood that I was in. So anyway, let me go down here to my little brand area, and we'll hit closing credits. Blah, blah, blah. And is that it right there? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, God bless you, and we'll see you later.